Hey guys, KiraKennedy here with the, not sure how true this statement is, but I'm still going to say it anyways, long-awaited return of Kira's Wrasslin vlogs. It is time for my SummerSlam 2017 predictions, and there we go. Now I will concede, not a lot has changed since I did my day 3 Vita vlog, I think, talking about why I don't watch as much pro wrestling anymore. But I do want to kind of try to start getting back into this at the very least. At the very least, I want to do this for like the Big Four pay-per-views and NXT events, mainly because NXT, even though I don't watch that much either, I still watch it a hell of a lot more than I watch the main roster stuff now. But anyways, without any further ado and without any more dilly-dallying, let's get into my predictions for the show. Obviously, SummerSlam 2017 will be taking place live from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, this Sunday, August 20th, live on the WWE Network. It will be a 6-hour show, 4-hour main card with a 2-hour pre-show, although there's always room for overrun. Currently, there are 2 matches confirmed for the pre-show and 10 matches for the main card, though that could change between now and Sunday. So any addendums that need to be made will be made on my Twitter at KiraKennedyHNR, on my Tumblr at KiraKennedyHNR.tumblr.com. Sorry, I was about to burp there. As well as down below in the description box. So let's get started with the pre-show matches that have been confirmed so far. First up, it is a match for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship, which, as of this recording, has changed hands 2 nights ago, 1 week before the show. Currently, it is current Cruiserweight Champion, Akira Tozawa, defending his title against the former champion, the King of the Cruiserweights. I know that's a Scottish accent, not a Geordie accent, but we've established this before, I'm terrible with accents. Neville. Now, I'm gonna start by saying this. I think it's really stupid that they kind of fast-tracked the title shot to the week before the pay-per-view. Sorry, the title change to the week before the pay-per-view. I get that nobody cares about the Cruiserweight division, but this is not going to help people change their minds on that fact. And it's very lazy booking, and in fact, it's frustrating. Because why even book the... You saw the same thing 2 weeks before WrestleMania when the SmackDown Tag Team titles changed hands. When the Usos beat American Alpha for the titles 2 weeks before SmackDown. The only difference there is that the rematch never really happened. And that's frustrating. But anyways... I really like both these guys, and I think Tozawa winning the title was a little bittersweet, because while I do like Tozawa is one of my favorite cruiserweights. He was one of those guys coming out of the Cruiserweight Classic that I was really excited to see be signed when it was announced he was joining the Cruiserweight division, back when I was still optimistic about the Cruiserweight division. Neville is one of those guys, he's been consistently brilliant since he joined the Cruiserweight division. He's been one of the few lights at the end of the tunnel that is the Cruiserweight division. Because he's been consistently entertaining, whether it's on TV or especially on Twitter. Just constantly posting in all caps, calling everyone peasants, and how they should bow before your king. Again, that's not a Geordie accent, probably, but I've said that enough. Anyways, my prediction for this one is fairly simple. It's too soon for another title change to happen, and I think hot potatoing the title is actually going to do more damage than having the title change hands the week before the pay-per-view. So with that being said, obviously, the winner in this case is Akira Tozawa. Ha! 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 I am so gonna use that as my title card. Anyways, next up, we have a match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The New Day, being represented by Xavier Woods and Big E, which does not bode well, especially considering my previous statement during my Vita vlogs about that joke curse I have about wrestlers dropping their titles or losing big title matches shortly after I meet with them. So if that happens, it's totally not my fault. Xavier Woods was the one who signed that death note. I'm just joking. Anyways, it's a little weird to see this match get dropped down to the pre-show, especially considering, though it's not saying much, they clearly had the best match at Battleground last month. You know? Again, it's not saying much because Battleground was, without hyperbole, a shit show. And I am not exaggerating there. Apparently Battleground was terrible. So to have the best match from the last pay-per-view not even be on the main card, that says a lot about what WWE thinks about SmackDown's current tag division. Although, then again, one of the three most popular tag teams in SmackDown's tag team division right now don't even wrestle. They do comedy sketches, which, don't get me wrong, I love comedy wrestling. I love the Fashion Files. I love the Fashion Police. But I don't know. Something about one of their most popular tag teams being a glorified comedy act, it feels weird. And again, I like comedy wrestling. I don't want to knock it. Because, I mean, hell, one of the matches I want to do a reaction for is Toru Yano versus Kenny Omega from the recent G1 Climax tournament this summer. That was a glorified comedy match, and everybody was bashing it for it because it didn't belong in the G1. I didn't really watch much of the G1 Climax, I will concede. But I do want to see kind of what... I do want to kind of do a reaction to that, because it's Kenny Omega. I really do. He's really become one of my favorite wrestlers in the world right now. But back to... I accidentally opened up a link to Brock Lesnar's Wikipedia page. Anyways, back to the show. Back to the SmackDown Tag Team title match. The New Day, of course, being represented by Big E and Xavier Woods versus the Usos, defending their New Day defending their titles against the Usos. Besides the joke curse of wrestlers losing big title matches after I meet them, it also doesn't bode well that Xavier Woods is in the match, because historically he's been the one that's eaten the pinfall for the New Day. Whenever they lose a match, it's because Xavier got pinned. 9 times out of 10. I think it was different when they lost the titles to Sheamus and Cesaro, but I can't remember. When they lost the Raw Tag Team titles to Sheamus and Cesaro. But besides that, I think the worst thing they could do right now is ping pong the tag team titles between... It's a very similar note to what I said about... my brain's fried for a second. To what I said about the Cruiserweight title match. I think the worst thing they could do is ping pong the title. Especially considering SmackDown has had a habit of doing that recently, ping-ponging titles around. You saw it with... Well, the only example I could really give with that was what happened with the U.S. title in the last month. It had gone from Kevin Owens to Chris Jericho to Kevin Owens to AJ Styles to Kevin Owens to AJ Styles. You know, since WrestleMania, that title's changed hands like 6 times. You know, 6 times in 6 months is not a good record for title changes. I don't want to see that happen to the tag team titles, because SmackDown's tag team division is already so underutilized to begin with. If you make their title look like a joke, then that's kind of it. You know, nobody's going to take it seriously. And I don't know if a lot of the blame falls on Road Dogg, or if it's on Vince McMahon, or Kevin Dunn, or who it is, but somebody's got to fall on the sword for this one. Because SmackDown has been really bad for a few months now, and it's frustrating. But out of a hope of optimism that they're not going to start ping-ponging the titles, because I rambled for a bit too long there, I'm going to say the New Day retains their titles. Maybe, once again, it's Xavier Woods actually getting the pinfall, the one who actually pins one of the Usos to retain, to kind of start overcoming that stereotype that Xavier is the one that gets pinfalls, and every time I meet a wrestler, they lose a big title match right afterwards. From there, we move on to the main card. I'm going to try to lightning round this as best I can, but we're going to start from the bottom and move up to the top. So for the first match on the main card, we have another tag team title match. Sheamus and Cesaro defending their WWE Raw Tag Team Championships against Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. If you're wondering, right here I've got actually the list of matches as announced on Wikipedia on my phone, just because I don't have my dual screen setup that I used to have back at my parents' house. But, so they're defending their titles against Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, and I'm of I can think of a whole bunch of reasons why I'm going to be predicting what I'm predicting, which is Sheamus and Cesaro are retaining. But for the sake of brevity, number one, from what little I have been watching of wrestling over the last few weeks, it seems like they're teasing towards a Dean Ambrose heel turn, which I want to say I hope that makes him not as stale, but I thought the same thing about Dolph Ziggler, and he actually got worse after he turned heel. Also, it kind of seems like these guys are above the tag team titles. I don't know if that's just me being a smark, or if that's a proven fact. Then there's the whole thing about Ambrose's title reigns since losing the WWE Championship. Hell, even when he was WWE Champion, have been terrible. Just terrible. WWE Championship, there was some good matches and stuff. His match with Dolph Ziggler was kind of the point where it was like, I don't care about Ambrose anymore. I don't want him anywhere near the title picture. And then he won the Intercontinental title last year. I think it was around TLC. It might have been TLC, might have been the Royal Rumble. I can't remember now. But, I think he only defended his title like a handful of times in the 5 or 6 months he was champion. And that's not good. It hurt the Intercontinental title, which was already a weak title to begin with. Hell, in joke, I was a former Intercontinental champion. I'll post a link to the video that kind of shows that. I'm not an official former Intercontinental champion. Very much so like vacant. But, the IC title has been a real joke, and I don't trust Ambrose with a tag team title reign. I'm sorry, I don't. So I think, like I said, Sheamus and Cesaro retain, and then Ambrose turns heel on Rollins. Because those two, they can put on a good match. I don't know if it's Rollins carrying Ambrose, or the two just really do, or Rollins is one of the few people Ambrose actually has chemistry with. But, I'm optimistic about a feud between those two. From there, we move on to a match that has a giant elephant in the room that I'm probably going to have to talk about anyways. But it is John Cena facing off against Baron Corbin. This match, I believe, came about around the time Shinsuke Nakamura and John Cena faced off to see who would take on Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. After Nakamura won the match, spoilers, that's a match that's happening, that I'm also talking about. Apparently in an off-air segment, or a dark segment that they aired on the network, so I guess I can't really call it a dark segment, or an off-air segment. Anyways, after for a segment they aired on the network, you had Baron Corbin try to blindside Nakamura, only to be attacked by John Cena. A week later, I believe, they confirmed a match between the two for SummerSlam. And then, as of this recording, last night, the August 14th edition. August 14th or August 15th? The August 15th edition of SmackDown saw Baron Corbin attempt to cash in his Money in the... cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase on Jinder Mahal, who had been taken out by a top rope attitude adjustment by John Cena, who had lost to Jinder, only to have John Cena jump up on the ropes just as the bell was ringing, distract Corbin long enough for him to lose and fail his cash-in via roll-up. I'm going to try to avoid being a smark when I explain why I think this was a stupid idea. And if I do, I apologize, because I will freely admit right now, I probably know next to nothing about wrestling, but I'm going to explain why I think this was a dumb idea. That's really what I'm trying to get across here. I'm not going to say it was a dumb idea. I'm not going to say it was anything other than what I think, okay? I'm just going to say what I think about this. And I think it was a dumb idea. I think, for one thing, the fact that you wasted the cash-in on something as stupid as this, it's going to hurt Corbin's momentum, and he's had his momentum hurt a lot since being called up to the main roster. He had that terrible feud with Dolph Ziggler. He had that terrible feud with Dean Ambrose, where he didn't even win the Intercontinental Championship before Ambrose got shipped off to Raw. And Corbin, I like Corbin. I know after the brand split happened, and the first SmackDown, he was put into a six-pack challenge to see who'd face Dean Ambrose for the WWE Championship. And I rolled my eyes at that. That was coming off of, the Baron Corbin-Dolph Ziggler feud. That was terrible. Back to this, and it's like, why bother having him cash in? Or why? There's a whole bunch of reasons I could rant about with this, Why bother giving Corbin the briefcase if you were just going to waste the cash-in like that? Why waste the cash-in attempt? Why actually have him cash in his opportunity if you were just going to have Cena screw him? Why not do what you always do with those Money in the Bank teases? Why not just have the man be attacked before the ref can ring the bell and then nullify the cash-in? Why not just not cash in general? Why not just have him why not just do what Carmella did the night she won the SmackDown Women's Money... the night she won the Women's Money in the Bank briefcase the first time. And why not have her why not have him tease giving the briefcase to the ref and just like, no, not the time, not happening. Something like this is... Again, I'm trying to avoid using words like burial, because we don't know yet. I'm going to say that right now. We don't know if Corbin is going to be buried by this, and I'm rambling way too much about this, so let's actually get into the predictions. My thoughts on who's going to win this, it's an optimistic hope, but there is some facts behind it, and I think Baron Corbin's coming out on top here. The reason for that is not even based on Corbin's own merits. It's based on history with John Cena and SummerSlam. Because ever since 2010, when Cena ate a DDT onto exposed concrete in a match between Team WWE and the Nexus, which was, at the time, Wade Barrett, Heath Slater, the Ryback, or Skip Sheffield as he was known as then, Wade Barrett, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, the Ryback, Darren Young, and Michael Tarver, and there was someone else. Bret Hart. Yeah. Okay, so it was a 6-on-6 match. And it was John Cena. It came down to John Cena versus, I believe, Wade Barrett and Justin Gabriel. So Barrett hits a DDT on Cena to the outside, exposed concrete, and Cena immediately jumps back up and takes out Justin Gabriel and Wade Barrett in quick succession, basically killing any momentum the Nexus had left, or had built up since the night they debuted on Raw. I'll put a link to that whole thing in the description below. But ever since then, every SummerSlam, Cena's lost. Whether it be 2011, where he lost to Punk in, admittedly, not a clean loss, but he lost to CM Punk in a WWE Championship unification match, basically determining who was the true undisputed champion of WWE. Then, a year later, in a triple threat match, I think Big Show was the one that ate the pin in that match, but it was a triple threat match between CM Punk, John Cena, and Big Show. Cena lost again. 2013, he lost clean in the middle of the ring to Daniel Bryan. Again, for the WWE Championship. 2014, he got demolished by Brock Lesnar, again for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. 2015, he lost to Seth Rollins. Admittedly, it was a tainted win because Jon Stewart had kind of blindsided him because he didn't want Cena to win World Title number 16. And then 2016, Cena lost to AJ Styles clean in the middle of the ring in the match of the night. So obviously, by that logic, Cena's not winning here. It's just, it's off of that history. And I think Corbin really does need the win at this point. Because if he loses here, his momentum is basically dead. Again, not using the term burying, they have killed his momentum. They have not buried him, they have killed his momentum. And they're going to need, and regardless of whether he wins or loses here, they're going to need to book him like a badass. But they're going to have to, if they want to make him a contender for the WWE Championship, which I think is the eventual goal, I could be wrong. If they want to make him look like a credible threat for the WWE Championship, they have to make him look like a badass, basically. I'm not saying he has to win every single match, but he has to they have to make him look as strong as possible for that to work. So, yeah, Baron Corbin wins, and we move on to the next match. Finn Balor taking on Bray Wyatt. Now, I'm of two minds on this. On the one hand, it's Bray Wyatt. He loses every single big match. On the other hand, Bray Wyatt seems to have this mystical power of being able to always beat internet darlings. On the other hand, Finn Balor's bringing back the Demon. And as the Demon, Finn Balor's only really lost one match. And it was against Samoa Joe. The night before he got drafted to Raw in the draft last year. So, because I would like to think that the WWE doesn't have any interest in completely killing Balor's momentum, even though some people might argue the idea of him being injury prone, considering he had an ankle injury 2 months before NXT TakeOver Dallas that it took him a while to heal from, but he just barely managed to be cleared to compete, I think, a month before the event. There was the torn labrum incident from SummerSlam of last year, where basically Rollins powerbombed him into the barricade and he kind of stuck his arm out and just dislocated his shoulder. Then there was the concussion he got 2 weeks after coming back. Then there was the rumors about him being banged up a couple weeks ago and basically taking like minimal bumps. Okay. So there are going to be people who are saying Balor's too injury prone. There are people who say he's boring. I'm looking at you, Duke CT. I still think Balor's winning here. It's, again, based on it's based on kind of thin logic on it's the Demon, and I'd hope they want to protect the Demon, which is just basically Finn Balor in very demonic-looking body paint. But it's also the the thin logic of, it's Bray Wyatt. All he does is lose. Nobody takes Wyatt seriously anymore. So yeah, Finn Balor wins there. I apologize if I do keep looking down. Apparently I'm actually accidentally opening up other Wikipedia pages while I'm doing this. So, next we have the most head-scratching match on the card. Big Show taking on Big Cass, with Enzo in Big Show's corner. Who's in Big Show's corner, since it was revealed that Cass was the one that attacked Enzo. But Enzo is suspended above the ring in a shark cage. Now, I'll admit, Enzo is one of those guys who he's supposed to be the good guy, but he's kind of an asshole. And not in a likable way like The Rock, or even to an extent Roman Reigns. Yes, I just called Roman Reigns a slightly likable asshole. Deal with it. Which is weird, considering, I'm usually the first one to say, oh, Roman's doing this terrible thing even though he's supposed to be the good guy. Enzo is 10 times worse. As bad as Roman is, Enzo is 10 times worse at that. But why is the babyface suspended in the ring suspended above the ring in a shark cage? Forget the fact that this match doesn't warrant a shark cage, because why? Forget the fact that this match doesn't warrant a shark cage, because clearly the only reason they're doing this is because the last 2 times they did it, it sold toys. Out of optimism, I'm gonna say Big Cass wins. Mainly because, if they want to keep giving him momentum, and Big Show's been actually really good with this lately, they should have him go over the Big Show. But I don't care. I really don't. It's actually frustrating how much I don't care, and I don't know why it's frustrating. Because it's not that I don't care, it's that I violently don't care. It's like, my apathy has reached a point where it actually makes me frustrated, and I don't know how else I can put that without turning into Mojo Jojo. So let's just move on. Randy Orton versus Rusev. Orton wins. As much as I like Rusev, they book him terribly. That's really all I have to say about that. Orton wins, and nothing changes. Next up, AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens for the United States Championship, with Shane McMahon serving as the special guest referee. I like both these guys. I like AJ. I like Kevin. I like Kevin Owens. I don't like that they've ping-ponged the US title between them 3 times since, I mentioned already how many times the titles changed hands since WrestleMania. Half those times have been AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. I'm only going to say AJ wins here because I don't want the US title to become a hot potato. It didn't work for the IC title. It didn't work for the Raw Women's Championship. It's not going to work here. Okay? And Road Dogg, if you're watching this, because I know you are, or whoever's in charge of booking on SmackDown, do not hot potato this title. Because all you're doing is making the title seem more worthless to people. Also, learn how to deal with people on Twitter, Road Dogg, if you're watching this, please. Because you're terrible at dealing with people on Twitter. And honestly, there's a reason the Fire Road Dogg chant's been going. There's been a Fire Road Dogg hashtag been going on, and I'm pretty sure how he deals with people on Twitter is one of the reasons. Anyways, moving on. It's a match for the WWE Championship. Jinder Mahal, the champion, being accompanied by the Singh brothers, defends his title against Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, this can go either way. On the one hand, WWE's got a tour of India coming up, and I'd imagine they want Jinder to be champion heading into that. But at the same time, part of me really wants to see Nakamura with the WWE Championship. Some people argue it's too soon, he's being hot-shotted for the title, just like Finn Balor was. I'm gonna put an asterisk on that, because Balor, his title match was like his third match on the main roster. His Universal title match was like his third match on the main roster. And that's a little questionable, but that was based off of the momentum of him being, basically he was running roost at in NXT. Nakamura was very much in the same boat, but at least he was, winning matches, even though one of them was by disqualification. He's been booked consistently strong since then. Kind of the opposite of Jinder, but, whatever. Now, there's the whole thing about how last week Jinder lost cleanly to Randy Orton. I don't think that's going to play in here, the whole lose on pay-per-view. I don't think that it's going to play in that way, the old lose on TV, win on pay-per-view thing. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here and gamble on the idea that Shinsuke Nakamura wins here, and he becomes the new WWE champion. Now, had Baron Corbin still been Mr. Money in the Bank at this point, I would have said, and maybe this is where Corbin cashes in his briefcase, but we all know that's not happening anymore. So I'm just going to leave it at Nakamura becomes WWE champion. Up next, we have the first of two women's championship matches on the card. First up, for the Raw Women's Championship, it's Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks. Honestly, the idea of Sasha as champion kind of bores me right now. I don't think it's really something that needs to happen right now. The problem is, like I said about Raw's women's division, it's not great. The only reason I could see Sasha winning here would be to work as a transitional champion to put the title on Nia Jax. And wait, she turned face, didn't she? Okay, if she turned, I'm gonna put an ass. If she turned face, then that really gets rid of a lot of the ambiguity here. Alexa Bliss retains. And partially, I'd be glad with that anyways, because Alexa, even minus that terrible Extreme Rules feud she had with Bayley, with the This Is Your Life segment, that terrible kendo stick on a pole match, her title reign, she's been consistently entertaining. So, yeah, Alexa Bliss retains here, maybe goes on to feud with Nia, and probably drops the title to her at No Mercy. That's my prediction. On to the other side, you have the SmackDown Women's Champion Naomi defending against Natalya. This is going one of two ways, and neither is good for Naomi. Either Naomi retains and then immediately gets cashed in on by Carmella. Carmella immediately cashes in her Money in the Bank briefcase. Or Natty wins. And I'll be honest, like, a couple months ago I said Naomi was probably one of the strongest booked champions SmackDown has had. I don't know. I think maybe her title reign has can come to a natural end here, and she can win back the title at a later date. But I'm gonna hazard a guess here that Natty wins and becomes the fourth ever SmackDown Women's Champion. Becky Lynch, fourth ever. Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Natty. Yeah. Either way, I think we're going to have a title change for the SmackDown Women's Championship. But also, SummerSlam tends to be one of those shows where the heels kind of run roughshod and they win all the matches, or they win a majority of the matches. So yeah, Natty wins and becomes SmackDown Women's Champion. I don't know if it's a good reign, if it's a short reign. I don't know if Carmella immediately cashes in on Natty, but that's my prediction. Moving on, we have our main event. A fatal four-way for the Universal Championship. You have champion Brock Lesnar defending against Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, and Braun Strowman. This one's actually hard to predict, or it would have been had a spoiler not been tweeted about what the rumored match is for Clash of Champions. Sorry, No Mercy, which is the next Raw pay-per-view. If that's the case, I think Lesnar goes over here. And I'm gonna tentatively say that right now, because with the stipulation of Brock Lesnar leaving leaving WWE if he loses the title, and I think it's a smidge too soon for Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman to win the title. And I think they're still kind of sticking to their guns of having Roman Reigns face Brock Lesnar for the title at WrestleMania. I'm not, as much as I admitted earlier that I do like Roman, I do think he's the better booked asshole. He's better being booked like an asshole and like a cocky prick than Mr. Jack and the Beanstalk or Suffering Succotash son. I don't think Roman's winning it here. As much as I'd like to see Samoa Joe or Braun Strowman win it, I don't think either of them are winning the titles here. I think Lesnar's holding on to that title till Mania, and I think that's when Roman beats him for the title. Maybe he wins the Rumble, maybe he wins at Fastlane or Elimination Chamber or whatever the Raw pay-per-view before WrestleMania is going to be called. I think the safe bet to go with here is Brock Lesnar. Because I think the whole stipulation of Heyman announcing that if Lesnar loses the Universal title here, he's going to leave WWE. I think that's a red herring. Although again, there's the whole thing about Lesnar apparently going back into the USADA, which is the drug testing organization for UFC. Which is hinting at the idea that he might want to get back into fighting. If I keep bringing up these things, I'm going to second guess myself. So I'm just going to lock that in right there. Brock Lesnar retains the Universal Championship and maybe goes on to face Strowman at No Mercy. So since that has run on very long, this has run on very long as is. I think 40 minutes right now. I'm going to end it there. So why don't you guys tell me your thoughts on SummerSlam so far, and what you guys think is going to happen down below in the comment section. With all that out of the way, if you guys would like to follow me on social media, I am on Twitter at KiraKennedyHNR, Tumblr at KiraKennedyHNR.tumblr.com, and of course you can always check out my Facebook page at facebook.com/KiraKennedyReviews. And as always, if you'd like to check out any of my past work, my Let's Plays, my stream archives, even my reviews, you can do so at peanutbutterdisaster.com. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel even further, or a little more than just watching, you can do so at my Patreon, patreon.com/KiraKennedy. I'm actually thinking of revamping my $1 tier to maybe put out the reactions a day early for anyone who sorry, brain fart. For anyone who pays for anyone who joins in on the dollar tier. With all that out of the way, I'm Kira Kennedy, and thank you for watching.
Peanut butter disaster.